There is a passage the Lord tells us about in the work Heaven and Hell that is about people walking along a pathway, and they come to a big rock, and some hit the rock and others don't. Some see the rock and others don't. Does anybody see a rock up here? You do, okay? When I put it there, maybe I thought you might have been doing something else and maybe didn't notice. Does anybody not see the rock? You might not be able to see it. Ooh, it's right here. You want to stand up, you can see it if you want to stand up, or you can come forward a little closer, you can see it, but I don't want you to hit it. It's not that big a rock, but it's not a pebble either. It's not something you carry around in your pocket. There is a way that leads to heaven, and there is a way that leads to hell. And this was once represented to me, Swedenborg writes. There was a broad way that tended off towards the north. Actually, I think the north is off that way. And many spirits were going along that way, but at a distance a large stone was seen where the broad way, the large way, came to an end. And from that stone, two ways branched off. One to the left, and that would be this direction from the way you're looking, right? To the left, and the opposite direction to the right. And that way that went to the left was narrow or straight. That means it's sort of tight. And the way that went off to the right was broad and wide. As it seemed, people were walking, everyone was together, all going the same way. When they reached that point, they divided. The good turned to the left and entered the straightened or narrow way, which went to heaven, while the evil, not seeing the stone at the fork of the ways, fell upon it and were hurt. They rose up and they ran away to the right, which went down towards hell. So you can all see the stone. If you can't see the stone, make sure you see the stone. Would anybody like to come up and trip themselves against this stone? Probably not. Not after what I just read to you. So one of the beautiful things we have in our church are these teachings that have to do with the way heaven is and things that are seen in heaven. Because the Lord wanted Swedenborg to see these things and then tell us about it. So this broad way, and it's kind of like the aisle coming down the church. It's kind of like a big road like we have Burnhamthorpe going by right here. Many cars passing, thousands of people all going that way or this way on that road. And the way that leads to heaven, people are just together in the world. They're doing all sorts of things. Now, can you look at somebody and tell whether they're going to heaven? You think you can? You think you could look at the person beside you or person behind you or in front of you and go, that person, they're going to heaven. That person, they're not going to heaven. You can't tell, can you? Well, in the other world, when people get after they die and go to that world, they all go together and they can't tell at first who's going to heaven and who's going to hell. And then they come across a rock. And it's said to be later on in that passage, it's said to be like the chief cornerstone of a church. Because the Lord is said to be the foundation and the cornerstone of the church. And it's said to be that when people know about the Lord and love the Lord, they see the Lord, they see how important the Lord is, and the Lord leads them, and it says off to the left towards heaven. People who don't love the Lord, people who don't love their neighbor, don't try to be good, people who think, I'll just do whatever I want. I won't pay any attention to all that stuff about following the Lord or loving the Lord. I won't even see it. It's not that important. I'll ignore it. Well, they don't see the Lord. And it says that's represented by this story. They don't see the rock that stands for the Lord, loving people and being a sure foundation of a way to get into heaven. So they hit themselves against it and they're hurt. And they scatter off. Now, lots of times while we're in the world, we're making good choices, and sometimes we're making not so good choices. And sometimes we smack up against something and we go, ow, that hurt. Wow, I was trying to be selfish, and I was trying to get what I wanted, and I got so far, and then boom, I got caught. You ever get caught doing something wrong? Yeah, a few people admit, yeah, but we've all gotten caught. Sometimes you catch yourself, don't you? Sometimes you just catch yourself and you go, you know what? I don't want to do that. All of a sudden, I see the right things to do in order to follow the Lord. And that's like the people who see the rock. They understand and see that the Lord is more important than anything else. I took a photograph of another rock. Does anybody know where this rock is? You ever seen that rock? You know where it is? Some, perhaps, you do? Where is it? Where is it? It has carving on it. Do you know where it is? Does anybody, can anybody, oh, we have one person who knows where this rock is from. Can you read the Hebrew on there? Some other people who might have been around actually when this rock was put into the ground. I'll show you back here. I'll get back to you. Do you know where this rock is? I'm showing the kids in the back. No? Maybe some of you people who were here a long time ago, back in, say, 1957 or 1958, know that, see where this wall right here goes? There's a wall right there. Right down at the corner is the cornerstone of our church. I went out and took a picture of it, and on it, it has written in Hebrew, the head of the corner, or the chief cornerstone, because it's Hebrew, comes from the word, and it stands for, we are founded on the truth of the Lord's word. We want to follow the Lord. So I brought that stone up. I can't bring the cornerstone up because it's at the base of all the work that put this church in place. But the idea is that the Lord needs to be our cornerstone. We need to see him in all the things that we do. And once in a while we'll run up against, we're doing something wrong. But the Lord will always be there providing the source of understanding and strength to keep going in the way that leads to heaven. Amen.